this. In the city of Lagos, it's raining cats and dogs. It's been raining for hours, and I have seen some incredible pictures showing us what is going on, flooding in several parts of town. But wherever you are, you're on to your number one talk news and sports station, 99.3 Nigeria Info. Do stay safe wherever you are. If you don't have to get out of the office, stay where you are until the rain subside and the flood also a little bit, so you can make your way home safely. So you know the way we do it on Public Square every Friday, Rotimi, Sankore, and I. Today we have a big show. It's the last of our special Nigeria at 60 series, supported by the Ford Foundation and Africa Center for Media Literacy. While previous episodes have focused on the past, the focus for today's episode is the future. We are looking at the future of Nigeria's 43% of the population under 15 years of age, and the number is astounding. It's 90 million and counting. What do we need to ensure they have a more secure future? That's the question we're asking. The first part of the program, we have a stellar panel of 4 partners from the United Nations. That's the UNFPA, which is the United Nations Population Fund. Dr. Zubaida Abubakar will be joining us. We'll also have Dr. Richard Ameya from UN AIDS, as well as Ms. Angela Muruli from UN Women. Dr. Edwin Ikoria from One Campaign also joins the conversation. So between now and 5 p.m., we'll be doing a few rounds of questions with them, and then time permitting, take a few questions from the audience. And after 5 p.m., Rotimi, Sankore and I and the audience will be with you till 6 p.m. Remember, you can join the conversation on our social media platforms, where we're at Public Square NG, at Rotimi, Sankore and Aghogho, Oboh. And then you can also join us on WhatsApp. The number on WhatsApp, 0809 597 5805. Again, 0809 597 5805. And so, if Rotimi Sankore is up now, we can get some brief remarks from him as we begin the discussion. Do we have Rotimi there yet? While we wait to connect with Rotimi, then begin the conversation with him. We'll see if we can get his opening remarks and then get it all started. All right, I see we have Rotimi up now. Hello, Rotimi, are you there?
Yes, how are you?
Brilliant, Rotimi, and it's a momentous day for us, right?
Yes, it's also momentous in Lagos whenever there is a thunderstorm.
In fact, I was cracking
so the
someone
weather
up.
And the networks.
It's unbelievable. I was cracking someone up when they say we're going to have over 250, 60 days of rainfall, and we're clapping our hands that we had escaped the storm, not knowing it was going to happen in one day.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Okay. So we have a big issue on our hands. Your intro was spot on. We are looking at the future of our country. The previous 9 episodes of the program, kindly supported by Ford Foundation and Africa Center for media literacy have been looking at the past. And just briefly, before the panel comes on in Aghogho, the reason why we're looking at this specific demographic, the 43% under 15, about 90 million children and youth, is not just because they are the future of the country, it's also because they are the most vulnerable and unable to advocate for themselves. And unless we advocate for them in terms of their education, skills, their health, with respect to the girls, with respect to equality, gender equality, and girls' rights and so forth, we are going to have more of what we are having now. You know, the 33% unemployment we have now, the 100 million in extreme poverty, the 60 million adults unable to read and write, the 13 million children out of school, the 43% of forced child marriage, which we have, which is a driver for conflict. All those poor girls that didn't have their rights to education upheld and are being forced to start having children when they are children, and by the time they are 28, 29, 30, they've had 7 to 10 children each. Some die during childbirth, and the children become orphans. It's many of those children that are being recruited by bandits and extremists. So it's either we stand up for them now because they can't stand up for themselves, or if we fail to, in the future, some of them, even if it's just 10% or 15% of them, you know, that go rogue, then the country will be more unstable in the future. I mean, look at South Africa. They have 63% youth unemployment, and you can see what's happening there now. Nigeria's youth unemployment is 43%, another 20% on top of it, and boom. So in summary, that is why we are launching this campaign for the future of the 43%. And we have great partners from agencies working on these issues, population, youth, gender, health, inequality, and so forth, for great insights on the work that they are doing to help overcome this. So over to them. And on the other side of the hour, we can reflect on their contributions. I'd like to thank them in advance for joining us from the various partner agencies.
Absolutely. And thank you very much. And better late than never for the millions of people who are listening into the last episode of our Nigeria at 60 series, which has been supported by Ford Foundation and Africa Center for Media Literacy. So let's get on to the first of our partners straight away, the United Nations Population Fund. We have Dr. Zubaida Abubakar. Great to have you, Dr. Abubakar, join us this evening in Public Square.
Good evening, Aghogho. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of UNFPA.
Absolutely. And the UNFPA has been in the news recently because of the World Population Day, which was marked. And we've had very big discussions along the lines of the World Population Day, which Nigeria is such a huge part of. But let's get on to it, Dr. Abubakar. What would you say are the factors impacting on growth and size of under 15 demographics, such as fertility rate in Nigeria? Nigeria, you know, is among the top 10 globally.
Yes, that's a very good question. Thank you very much. As we know, Nigeria, as you said, and as Rotimi has said, you know, the under 15 account for about 44% of Nigeria's population, which comes to a huge number. Depending on the current population size that you look at, it's 80 to 90 million. We're the most populous country in Africa, and we do have a growth rate of about 2.7%, which means that if we continue at the rate that we're going,
Right.
We're going to reach about 210 million by 2020. And now we know that about 25% of that population are women of reproductive age. And specifically looking at the demographics of maybe, let's say, 15 to 19-year-olds, that's about 11% of the population. So in Nigeria, where 19% of teenage women have already started having childbirth and, childbearing, you can imagine that large population already beginning to have babies. And as Rotimi said, then they do have the rest of their reproductive careers, a very long period of reproductive career, and they can have 5, 6, 7 children after that. Unfortunately, also on the same hand, they're also the population that have the least access to family planning. Only about 2.4% of 15 to 19-year-olds are actually using modern contraception. So that means, there's a huge number of them, and they don't have access to space or limit the number of children that they have. Unfortunately, that means that we have a large population of young, giving birth to young, and even increasing that demographic population. And just to say that because we do have a large population of about 10.5 million out of school children, and 2/3 are girls, it removes one of the mitigating factors, which is education, because we know education reduces the rate at which women and girls have children. And when we have this large number out of school, then we're sort of not addressing the issue. So it's not just about the family planning; it's also about keeping girls in school and giving them access to adolescent sexual and reproductive health services.
Absolutely.
And this will actually help our GDP.
Absolutely.
So, and it can actually reduce unintended pregnancies and things like that.
Thank you very much, and for opening the conversation with our stellar panelists today, Dr. Abubakar. So let's move on now also to the UNAIDS. UNAIDS is also part of the discussion here today. We have Dr. Richard Ameya. It's a pleasure to have you here, Dr. Ameya.
Pleasure to be here, and I hope those in Lagos are keeping safe in the storm.
Absolutely. It's something if you live by the waters, you have to learn the culture of what the water do to us. But Dr. Ameya, excellent to have you, and great work you're doing with the UNAIDS. What would you say if we kickstart the discussion with you on the prevalence of mother-to-child transmission, and then children born with HIV, and how to prevent this?
Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. And I think 60 years of being independent, it is always great to look into the future with hope, and Rotimi's intro really puts it clearly. And then also Zubaida's submission is great. It will interest you to note that as we speak today, Nigeria is among the top 7 countries that contributes about half of all pediatric new infections globally. 1 in every 7 child born HIV positive globally is a Nigerian. And Nigeria contributed about 14% of the new infections globally. So that is a great concern. And so I'm happy you have brought the whole idea of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, because if we want to have an HIV-free generation, definitely we need to ensure that mothers are protected and that they give birth safely and their babies are free of HIV. As I speak to you, the programmatic data from the Ministry of Health clearly indicates that the HIV positivity among pregnant women in 2020 was about 1.6%. And out of the pregnant women who access antenatal care, Nigeria, because of the large population, has close to about 8 million expected pregnancies, and we just have about 1 in every 3 of those pregnant women who access services. So from the word go, you'll see that close to about 2 out of every 3 not even showing up at the antenatal at antenatal care services. That is a challenge, And so what we have realized is that the MTCT rate, that is the mother-to-child transmission rate in Nigeria, is as high as about 25%. And it's simply because over the past 5 years, antenatal services has remained closely constant. Just around 2.7 million pregnant women that really show up. And close to about 90% of them are tested for HIV, and we have an estimated close to 83,000 expected pregnant women who will be HIV positive in Nigeria. And last year, only 44% of them had access to antiretroviral drugs to mitigate mother-to-child transmission of HIV. That is a big concern. And because of that, only 7,600 new infections among children were averted. We could have done more. And Nigeria contributes significantly in the sub-region. And so it's important that we prioritize mother-to-child transmission of HIV and ensure that all pregnant women attending antenatal services really are provided with HIV testing, especially looking out for those 2/3 of those pregnant women who do not show up in our clinics. And it will interest you to know, close to 24% of people who were pregnant did not attend any services. And so to be able to reduce mother-to-child transmission so that Nigeria will not be the top country contributing significantly to mother-to-child transmission, we really need to prioritize it and ensure that every pregnant woman in Nigeria is screened for HIV so that we can eliminate mother-to-child transmission in the country. Thank you.
Absolutely, and some distance still to go. Thank you very much, Dr. Meyer. Dr. Meyer is with the UN-AIDS, and we'll still have some more questions for him. Let's get on to UN Women, another important agency and partner in the launch and the drive for our goal today. The UN Women here has Miss Angela Muruli. Ms. Muruli, great to have you join us here at the Public Square.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me and for having us here. I think it's an extremely important and timely launch with a few 43%. I mean, we're just coming off the back of largest convening on gender equality. So for us, we're keen to see how do we leverage on the potentials of youth, especially specifically in this case, Nigerian youth, to push forward social development. And we know that, as Dr. Zubaida, Dr. have alluded to, that much rests on the ability of women to progress successfully without fear of violence, access to education, access to economic prosperity. That very much rests on how well we can deliver those opportunities to women and girls. So like I was saying, we're just coming off the back of the Generation Equality Forum, which resulted in 40 billion worth of financial commitments globally on gender equality. And why this forum and why we're in a really important moment in history is because 25 years since the launch of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, which was that very monumentous conference in 1995, we are at risk of losing so many of the gains that we've made on gender equality and in social development in general. And I'll just take 2 examples. So the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, for those who don't know, lists 12 critical areas of concern on which the world, governments, public, civil society, activists, you and I are supposed to take actions in order to push forward the gender equality movement. I mean, and globally, even though we now have about 25% more women in leadership, if we look in the case of Nigeria, we still have less than 5% of women representation within the National Assembly. And that's quite shocking, to say the least, for a country of Nigeria's stature and importance to the continent. And it's even more shocking when how much young women, how much the youth have come out to show that they can convene, that they can lead movements in relation to civil participation in the recent months. And it's also quite, I would say, a shame that young women and the youth are not better engaged in leadership and governance, given how instrumental they've been in issues, for instance, such as the declaration, the state of emergency, on sexual and gender-based violence, which was declared by the National Governors Forum last year. So essentially, what we're trying to do with the Generation Equality campaign, in collaboration with all our UN sister agencies, is to say that we need young people, in collaboration with the leaders that have already gone before us, to create intergenerational consensus to push forward the global development agenda. And, Nigeria is the continent, is the giant of Africa. So what better place to start than here? And what better place to get this movement than here? So excited to continue seeing what the youth can do and to continue engaging in this conversation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Angela Moruli. You can join the conversation on WhatsApp. The WhatsApp number 0809-597-5805. Again, 0809-597-5805. If you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, suggestions for our wonderful quartet because the final resource person will talk with us now. Edwin Ikoria. Edwin Ikoria is from One Campaign, which works to end poverty and inequality, and is now working to build back from the COVID pandemic. Great to have you, Edwin Ikoria, join us on the public square.
Thank you for having me, and it's really great to be here. And thank you, Rotimi, for the fantastic opening that you've done in terms of the statistics.
Right.
Yeah, it's great to be part of this launch. Yeah.
Right. And since you work with young people, you're probably in the best position, Edwin, to tell us how the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting young people.
Okay, so I'm going to start with some very sobering facts. And I think my colleagues from UNFPA, from UNAIDS, and from UN Women have really contextualized these things from the point of view of the demographic challenge, right? And then as well as the issues around gender inequality. But I want to come to this from another dimension in terms of the lifespan of every Nigerian.
Right.
So, and I come from the point of view of education. When the pandemic came, we locked down. Many kids couldn't be in school, and you thought there was inequality before. Then when it came to the pandemic, the inequality became stark. It was right in our faces, because for the richer kids, they could be at home and still learn because they had access to internet and technology and all of that. They could still learn, but the greater percentage of kids who were sent out of school could not learn. But I think even before the pandemic, that we had a more terrible challenge, and that is what's the case, what we call the global learning crisis, where of the kids that are 8 to 10 and below, which is the foundational stage of learning, because that is from the age of 10, kids begin to they read to learn. But before 10, they were learning to read. Now, of these kids who are supposed to begin to read to learn from the age of 10, in Nigeria, over 90% could not read the alphabet. That is the reality we have today.
Wow.
It's a sobering fact. When the last the survey was done, kids aged to 10 and below, almost 90% cannot read. Now, the question, this is where it gets really bad, because from that age, when they're supposed to start to learn, from reading, and they're not able to read, it just increases the dilemma. And so when the pandemic came, and then many could not even go to school at all, the opportunity, of course, just simply closed. So we're calling that the lost potential. And this particular, the design of this program, focusing on this 43%, is that of this 43%, how many, even of those who are in school, are actually learning? Because how do you work yourself out of poverty? How do you learn to take care of yourself? How do you bring yourself from this current situation if you cannot, if you're not literate, if you're not able to know the basic things of how to take care of yourself? And this is where the challenge is. How do you get the skills? Today's World Youth Skills Day. How do you acquire skills when you cannot communicate in the language that is prevalent? So these are the challenges, but I'm really, really struggling with highlighting the problems, because the problems are many. And at this point, what we are thinking about right now is how do we build back differently, knowing these challenges that are there? How do we begin to think about the solutions? How do we create opportunities for learning? How do we increase the capacity to learn? How do we invest in the system that should enable them to learn? Those are the kind of questions that we're really focused on right now. And for young people want to get their lives back. We've seen that on the African continent, we are on our own because the global community simply left us to our own to deal with things ourselves. The vaccines, of course, like just 2 out of 100 are just getting the first dose of vaccines in Nigeria, right? Whereas in Europe, they filled the stadium to watch the football match. Absolutely. So those are the kind of inequalities that we see, and then we are saying this cannot go on like this. And as we focus on building back better, we have to put the young people at the center of building back better. Otherwise, this same phenomenon will repeat itself many years even after now. And that's the dimension we are coming from. The young people need to be at the center of building back better. We have to find them the space to learn. We have to find them the opportunities to work. We have to find them the opportunities to take care of themselves, through all of this public investment or investment in public goods. Right.
Thank you very much, Edwin Ikore from One Campaign. And we've gone the first round of questions now, and we'll go into the second round with great anticipation. A brilliant set, and thank you very much for all of your inputs so far. So we begin the second round of questions with the United Nations Population Fund, which has been in the spotlight. Dr. Zubaida Abubakar, I've had the theme, discussions in the last week about population management rather than the much talked about population control. I guess this is where the UNFPA has chosen the theme, My Body is My Own, claiming the right to autonomy and self-determination. Tell us why you came up with this theme, Dr. Abubakar.
Thank you very much. Yes, you rightly said the State of the World Population Report does have the theme, My Body is My Own. But let me start with a quotation from the UNFPA Executive Director, Natalia Kanem. And she said, the denial of bodily autonomy is a violation of fundamental human rights. And we know that Nigeria, like many other countries, is signatories to all these international treaties and things like that. And we know that really, if we want to achieve SDG 5, which is about gender equality, as Angela had just said, coming off the great conference that just took place, we need to make sure we have gender equality and to empower all women and girls. But we realize that sometimes we forget these adolescent girls. We forget that we also need to empower them. They are the future of tomorrow. In fact, they're the future of today with the great work that they do in technology. Right. So part of the things that UNFPA did, was to launch this global strategy called My Body, My Life, My World. And this looks at beyond the health, but the other factors like the education that Edwin mentioned and things like that. And, this was really part of our commitment to achieving the International Conference on Population Development, which took place about 25 years ago, which affirmed that, girls and young women and young people also have a right to choice and health. Then came 2020 and the pandemic, and this really caused a huge devastating impact on young people, especially in terms of their employment, formal and informal education, and their health and social services. And if we look at just two practices that we have in Nigeria, and I'll call them harmful practices, and look at the setback that adolescents and young people had because of those. For example, let's say child marriage. As Rotimi said, 43% of girls before age 18 are married off in Nigeria. Right. We know that the less education you have, the more likely you are to be married off. But what does that mean? It means that, because of COVID-19, there was potentially 13 million more child marriages that could take place. That's a huge number, impacting a huge number of adolescent girls, impacting on their future. And once you interrupt their future, and then the demographic dividend, we cannot harness it. And it's the same with female genital mutilation as well. 20% of Nigerian girls are mutilated, you know, if you look at that. And again, because of the pandemic, we had an increase of about 2 million potential cases of FGM. So both FGM and child marriage are actually predispose girls to higher risk of gender-based violence, to reduce access to family planning and safe maternal services. And if these girls do not have health, they cannot participate and contribute to development of our country. So it's very, very important that we looked at this theme of bodily autonomy. Adolescents and young women require and need and must have this right to make decisions and choices, not to be subjected to child marriage or female genital mutilation, so that, you know, we can achieve the demographic dividend. So I think the coming out of COVID-19, the theme was very apt, and that's why UNFPA globally looked at that theme. Yes.
Right, indeed. Thank you very much. Demographic dividends, Dr. Zubaida Abubakar with the UNFPA. Let's segue over to Dr. Richard Ameya, who is with the UNAIDS. And Dr. Ameya, it's the youth that's the most vulnerable of the different age groups in the country. It's a prevalence among youth in general, as well as adolescent girls in particular. Why is it this high, and how do we prevent this from spiraling more out of control? Dr. Ameya.
Thank you very much for this important question. You know that the African continent has about 60% of all the HIV challenge globally, and so you, depending on where you are on the continent, your vulnerability it's also different, you know. So you see that young girls and women, especially in the eastern and southern African part of the continent, really tend to drive the HIV epidemic. They are highly impacted by the epidemic. Whereas in West and Central Africa, mostly it's about key populations that drive it. The evidence in Nigeria through the Nigerian AIDS Indicator and Impact Survey clearly indicates that the prevalence among 15 to 19 years is low, 0.2%, you know. But then, just as my other panelists really said, inequalities is a huge issue. And so even with 0.2%, you will see that the females, the young girls, are like 3 times as likely to be HIV infected as compared to males, you know. And also for the ages between 20 and 24, with a prevalence of about 1.3%, you would see that females are 4 times as likely to be infected than males. And so inequalities, the UNAIDS recently had the high-level meeting where we had a very strong political declaration, and then the global AIDS strategy was born. And in that strategy, addressing inequalities, it's one of the key things. If we want to end the epidemic, we need to address inequality. So what Edwin talked about, inequalities in terms of education, inequality in terms of access to services, inequalities in terms of socioeconomic opportunities, are things that underpin the HIV epidemic in the country. As I speak to you today, we have close to about 250,000 young people, adolescent and young people in Nigeria living with HIV, you know, and this is a great concern for the UN, and then also I know also for government, and 1 in every 4 new infections in Nigeria, it's a young boy or a young girl between the ages of 15 to 24. So it is really a challenge, and when we drill deeper, you will notice that women and girls are disadvantaged compared to men. If it's about access to education, close to about 38% of women versus 21% of men had no formal education. So how can you protect yourself when you don't have the right information? You didn't go to school and don't have information to knowledge that will protect you from being HIV infected. What does that mean? You will see that if you don't access education, you are most likely to get married off quickly, and this is what is happening as far as young people are concerned. The less educated ones have early sexual debut, and the more educated you are, the latter you tend to engage in sexual intercourse, especially for young women. Those who have had secondary education are able to wait for 5 years before they have any form of sexual intercourse. And then also the whole risks around multiple concurrent partnership, young people having sex with older people put this population also at risk. And the point is, if we have the larger part of our young people not infected at this stage, this is the time for us to protect them, empower them with the right information, give them the necessary services so that they will know how to protect themselves against HIV. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Richard Amenya with the UN AIDS. In case you just joined in, it's Public Squares, the last of our special series, Nigeria at 60, supported by the Ford Foundation and Africa Center for Media Literacy. We're looking at the future. What does it hold for 43% of Nigeria's population, 90 million plus under the age of 15? Let's get on to UN Women. Angela Muruli. Angela, we have a big problem, I'm sure you can imagine, but I'm sure with our hands and shoulders to the wheel, we can make it work. You have meetings with the government, national and subnational, and I'm wondering what you think they need to do to ensure girls have a more equal future. Angela Muruli.
So I'm glad you said that, we have a lot of work ahead of us, so much on our shoulders. And I would just like to tweak the question a bit and actually present that this is something, gender equality needs a multi-stakeholder approach. So yes, we have government and we engage our legislators in ensuring that they put in place policies that would ensure women and girls, men and boys and men as well, because of course gender equality isn't just about women. It's about how does gender inequality affect boys and men as well. But so we have the role of the legislators, yes, and our advocacy through the technical support that the technical role that the UN has, we influence and gather best practices from across the world to ensure that the policies that are put in place are in line with those conventions that Dr. Zubaida referred to earlier. But what I want to really hone in on is that gender equality, this campaign that we have called Generation Equality, is actually for everyone. It's not just for legislators, it's not just for teachers, but it really needs all of us on board. The key products that we've produced through Generation Equality is this No Woman, No Naija track. And I want to use that as a case study because in that song, of course, we engaged with amazing Nollywood artists like Waje Omawumi, Dija Edesua, but we also had male allies involved. So Kobams produced that track. And what it really requires is for people to look at themselves and say, how in my home am I ensuring that we are creating a space where both boys and girls, women and men are able to live their lives, like I mentioned before, free of violence, with access to all opportunities. So it really comes down to the home because the home reflects society. It's not just a legislative issue, this really trickles down. And I just want to say that Generation Equality campaign really demands equal pay, equal sharing of unpaid care and domestic work, an end to sexual harassment and all forms of violence against women and girls, healthcare services that respond to the needs of women and girls, and equal participation in political life and decision-making in all areas of life. So when I say that, you can see that it really requires efforts from all spheres of life. So I haven't been too vague, but I really want to hone in on the fact that gender equality, this movement, is not just the responsibility of legislators, it's our equal responsibility.
Absolutely. The French will say "tu sais bien." As great as we all speakers here, the artist that Angela talks about, we cannot match them in vocals, but maybe we could try in the dance steps. I don't know, but at the top of the hour, I will put that out for us to listen to. It's a brilliant song. I couldn't resist the temptation to listen to it, and what a great work they put together. Some of the finest artists you can find, not just in this country, but in the African continent. Let's get to Edwin Ikoria with One Campaign. And Edwin, I'm itching to hear what you have to say about what governments should be doing to ensure the COVID-19 pandemic does not impact on children's future. It stayed longer than we anticipated, and we might as well begin to look at what we need to do to cope with this. Edwin.
I mean, if you say it stayed longer, it looks like you're speaking of it in the past tense. I think we're still in it. So it's about how do we cope. And I think one of the first thing that I thought was important is that we should not use the pandemic as an excuse to cut back the needed investment, for the future of our young people. Number one is, in terms of education, we cannot cut back on the education budget, right? For us to achieve a demographic dividend, it means that the large majority of the young people are actually productive, and productivity only comes from investment in their futures, and that comes with, and this is, comes with investment in their education at least, and then of course providing the needed public health care services that is required. Right. So we cannot cut back. There is no excuse to cutting back. But I think more importantly as well is the fact that the economic position of most parents, the parents of these young people, is plays a major role on the kind of opportunities that the kids themselves get. And so we're looking at how do we create opportunities for people to get employment, And so the question is, what kind of investment needs to come into the system to create opportunities for the parents as well as young people? Like Rotimi said at the opening, you can imagine about 40-something% of youth unemployment in Nigeria. And so we need to start thinking that if we're not going to get into a disastrous future in the shortest time, we need to start thinking about those, how do we improve the SME sector? How do we improve the business environment? How do we enable and incentivize investments in sectors that will create jobs? So those are the kind of questions we're asking right now. But all of these require investment. And investment here does not come from just within, because the fiscal space is limited. And so that is why we are not just calling and speaking about Nigeria only. We are asking and talking about Nigeria within a multilateral framework, within a global frame. Basically, for instance, we've pushed as one campaign, and the rest of the road, we pushed for the issuing of the SDRs, that the IMF should issue special drawing rights as a way of kind of, call it, if you like, printing money, so that poor countries can have access to some kind of liquidity, and they can invest them in this strategic sectors that will benefit the future of them, that will enable recovery to happen quickly. And so we should begin to look out for whether these funds, when they become available, will be used exactly for these purposes. So, and that is on one end. We're also thinking that African countries shouldn't have to pay so much in terms of debt. I bring that in because once you are servicing debt at with such a heavy part of your revenue, I'm sure you saw the report that in 2020, about 97% of the revenues that Nigeria earned in 2020 was used for debt service.
Incredible.
97. That is the number that we got. And what that tells you is that we have to find a way, because again, borrowing is a must. You cannot develop without investment, but we can't be borrowing at such exorbitant rates because we're poor. And so these are the kind of, how do we buffer up, how do we push up our fiscal buffers? How do we increase access to liquidity that will enable our governments to invest in those public goods that can really secure our future? These are the things we are pushing for, and we're saying we need to really take a pragmatic look at the future of this of the young people as the future of this country. I will leave it at that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Edwin Ikoria. One campaign. Fantastic. Believe it or not, we've come to the final round of questions, and how time flies when you're having a great discussion. That maxim rings never truer than now. So, with the United Nations Population Fund, we begin the final round of questions on this great day for us in Public Square. Such a brilliant set of resource persons we have. Let's go. Dr. Zubaida Abubakar, United Nations Population Fund, put out a report recently. And what would you say if you're going to summarize the key ask, demands, and recommendation of this report?
Thank you very much again for that question. So let's say that we know that we're very aware that for a girl, for a man, for a boy, for, a woman to have control over their own body, it's linked to how much control they have in the other spheres of their life. And so in terms of how empowered they are, how educated they are, how economically viable they are. So really, some of the asks of the recommendations that came out of this report is really about addressing those issues at the individual level, at the community level, and really looking at the system that supports all of us in Nigeria and beyond. So one of the things, of course, is having policies. We have policies in Nigeria. We have policies. What we really want to see is those policies and laws being enforced that protect women and girls from having their rights violated. We have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition. We have the National Strategic Plan to End Child Marriage. We have the National Strategic Plan to End FGM. We have a lot of these things, but really, let's operationalize it and make sure we end practices such as child marriage, gender-based violence, and FGM. Then we really need to empower the girls and the boys to make healthy decisions. And this is about really giving them responsive information. Our culture is very shy on us giving young people information, especially about their sexual and reproductive health and rights. But when 19% of teenagers are already pregnant with their first child, or they was, we need to talk to them about them so that they make the right decisions. And going back to what Richard said about, it's the young girls that are getting HIV. So how do you protect yourself? I'm sure Richard wanted to mention that we had also done an HIV investment case for adolescents and young people in Nigeria, just to look at really what are the investments required to do that. And then give them access to the services, sexual and reproductive health services. Education, we've talked so much about education. One of our programs, as Edwin said, we found that girls go through school in northern Nigeria, but they can't read and write at the end of it. So, we have these safe spaces where we ensure that after school clubs give them extra numeracy and literacy classes, but also talk to them about reproductive health in a culturally appropriate way so that they're equipped to make the right choices for their reproductive health careers. But health providers also need to be brought in because we really need to have they have a critical role in this. And we really want to avoid what we call age-related discrimination when it comes to health services. Young people go to buy contraceptives or go to clinics looking for advice and treatment. And they're like, why, you young people, you shouldn't be doing this and things like that. And that deters them. So those are also part of the things. And we really need to track. We need to keep good data. And that's one of the key recommendations, because if we don't have data, then we don't know whether we're actually meeting our milestones and getting to the promised land. So those are some of the recommendations that came really. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Zubaida Abubakar, United Nations Population Fund. And data is a key component of what we do on the public squares. We distill and try to ask questions where we are and where we could be for better or for worse, in how it goes. We have the headline news at the top of the hour, and when I come back, I'll have the final thoughts from UN-AIDS as well as UN Women and One Campaign. In this final episode of Nigeria at 60 series, Public Square, Rotimi Sankore is still here with us. We're taking in everything. There's still the opportunity for you to send in those messages and comments as they come in. Many of the questions you're asking having to do with what these agencies are doing, and they've been responding to them, beginning with Dr. Zubaida Abubakar and the final round of questions. It's 99.3 Nigeria Info. We will be right back after the headlines to continue from where we stop. Please, let's talk.
Information at its peak. This is 99.3 Nigeria Info. I'm listening.
Hello, my name is Abdul. My friends ask me how.
It's 5 o'clock. The headline news on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
House of Reps passes Electoral Act Amendment Bill, Petroleum Industry Bill amidst division among members. House of Reps former Speaker Aminu Tambuwal criticizes Senate's decision to subject INEC's constitutional powers to Nigerian Communications Commission and National Assembly. PDP expresses shock at Senate's rejection of electronic transmission of election results, while INEC omits name of former CBN Governor Chukwuma Soludo and PDP candidate from Anambra governorship election. National Broadcasting Commission orders television, radio stations in Nigeria not to report details of terrorist attacks or name victims. Calls on media practitioners to be more cautious in reporting crisis situations in the country, while UNILA calls for provision of special grants for institutions to further develop and promote virtual learning. Federal government declares Tuesday and Wednesday next week as public holidays to mark this year's Eid al-Kabir celebration. The Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs appeals to Muslim faithful not to borrow amid current economic situation as they celebrate the Eid. And death toll rises to 212 in South Africa unrest. Those were the headlines. It is back to Public Square with Aghogho, Oboh, and Rotimi Sankore. I'm Yvonne Ohaifo, and this is 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Let me tell you about Public Square. There are several lines that meet other edges.
Youth of this country who are already in a disillusioned, disenchanted state will be encouraged.
Where we talk about the fine margins. Sometimes it's black, white, and blurry.
It's also informed by the need to save costs and reduce legislative time.
Then there are the actors, right at the center, coming through political processes, which could be dramatic.
To the extent of dismissal if Parliament does not rise this morning.
And controversial.
If driving to the roads is engaging the Macabadan, compatibility is that of government.
And there's you to help connect the dots from the top to the bottom. Join Rotimi Sankore and Aghogho Oboh at the Public Square every Friday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Public Square.
All right, welcome back. And we have a show today. If you're not listening, oh dear, oh boy, where are you? Away from the rains everywhere, not just in the country, all across the world. We are having discussions not just about today, but also for the future. It's the last of our special Nigeria at 60 series, which is supported by the Ford Foundation, and we are looking at the future of Nigeria's population, the 43% of the population, which represent over 90 million people. What do we need to do to ensure they have a secure future? And so graciously, who've been helping us, UN agencies here, from the United Nations Population Fund, Dr. Zubaida Abubakar, Dr. Richard Ameya from UN AIDS, Angela Muruli from UN Women, and Edwin Ikoria from One Campaign. So let's get back to this time now UN AIDS. And we've got a question here for Dr. Richard Ameya. So, Dr. Richard, I'm sure that people asking questions about what exactly the agencies are doing. So, I want you to educate them. You've got a number of numbers here. you work us through 90, 90, 90, 95, 95, 95. We understand all of these as strategies. And how will it's the implementation of these codes, strategies, help break the chain and save the next generation from the high burden of HIV and AIDS? Dr. Richard Ameya.
Thank you very much. And I think the listeners have the right to know what the UN is doing in Nigeria.
Right.
The UN is doing a lot. It is a development agency, and so our role is to help build country capacity and ensure that we are able to support government and civil society to be able to address their development needs and then also needs of their communities. Clearly that for the UN, we've bought into the Sustainable Development Goals as a good entry point for us to see how we can help government. So there are several agencies that are out there that are supporting the different ministries, agencies, and departments of government. And when it comes to the area of HIV, within the UN, HIV is a high priority, and UNAIDS, as you know, is the United Nations joint program on AIDS, and we have 11 co-sponsors. And UNFPA, represented by Zubaida, by the division of labor that we have within the UN, are responsible for addressing issues around young people, people who are substantial risks of HIV, like sex workers and all that, and then ensuring that they leverage sexual and reproductive health and issues around population to address HIV. And my sister Angela is also a co-sponsor with the UN Women, and they are heavily investing within the Ministry of Women Affairs and supporting the cause of women politically, and then also in addressing their health needs. And we have also UNICEF that is engaging in issues around maternal and child health issues. And we have WHO, now we have COVID, and the WHO is so active and at the front line, putting lives at risk in order to protect people. And many more. UNDP addressing issues of human rights, UNODC addressing issues of drugs, and then HIV within correctional centers, and many more. And so clearly the UN is doing a lot in building country capacity to help us. The ultimate goal for us basically is to end the HIV epidemic as a public health threat. And you already know, I'm sure listeners actually heard about the recent United Nations special session on AIDS at the high-level meeting, where His Excellency, the President, actually gave a powerful video message committing to ending the AIDS epidemic in Nigeria. And then also we have the Minister of Women Affairs committing to addressing issues about women and HIV prevention and associated inequalities that drive that. The political declaration that came out of the high-level meeting in June, actually came up with some very ambitious targets, which is aligned to the global AIDS strategy. And in this target, we had one in 2016, which gave out the 90-90-90, which is 90% of persons living with HIV to know their status, and 90% of those who know their status have access to treatment, and 90% of those who are on treatment are virally suppressed, because we know when you are virally suppressed, your rate of transmitting the virus is significantly low. And so in the 2021 political declaration in June, We have committed, countries, member states, have committed to moving the target from 1990 to 95, 95, 95. You know, that tells you we are pushing the notch higher to ensure that we cover many more people and leaving no one behind. As far as the 1990 targets are concerned, where does Nigeria stand? As I speak to you, out of the 1.8 million people who are living with HIV in Nigeria, we have about 1.5 million people who are currently on treatment, which is really, really an excellent performance for Nigeria. So Nigeria indeed attained the 1990 target. The projections were that we would attain 1990 by 2023. But I tell you, because of the good work of PEPFAR, the US government, you know, that and then also the Global Fund, and also the commitment of His Excellency the President to put about 50,000 Nigerians on treatment on annual basis, have really contributed to making sure that we achieve the 1990 target. We are at 86 and 72, which is really very, very good. However, looking at this target, there are still some populations that are being left behind. As I speak to you, children are being shortchanged, including those the 43% that we are talking about now, you know, on this platform. Children, we just have about 45% of children who are living with HIV, who know their HIV status, and only 45% that are on treatment, and abysmal 31% who are virally suppressed. So for us to be able to achieve the 95, we definitely need to invest significantly in addressing issues around mother-to-child transmission of HIV and ensuring that we end the AIDS epidemic among children. That is how we can have a generation free of HIV. Another group that is being left behind, unfortunately, is men. You know, men are being left behind. Our women are doing pretty well because of their health-seeking behaviors, but men are being left behind, and we need to invest more to bring men onto the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Richard Ameh, and it's a great place for us to say thank you very much for you, all of you, for being partners with us in the launch of this campaign for the under 15s, which represent 43% of the country's population, equated over 90 million. And that song that Angela Moruli talked about, which is a song which features Kubamsa Sukwo, Waje Omawomi Adeswe Tomi. This is a dream team and Dija. I'm going to play it now, and I come back, you listen to that, and then Erin Ikoria can tell us bye-bye, and together with Angela Moruli. So we listen to it now, and this is it. And No Woman, No Naija.
A strong woman live. You are more than pretty, you're a queen, you're a star, you're a woman.
like you don't want the song to end. Angela Muruli. This done by Kobams Wajio Maomi, Adeswa Tomi, and Dija, the finest artists you've got in the country. Thank you very much, Angela Muruli from the UN Women.
Thank you so much for airing it.
I hope it got you it got everyone dancing.
I hope so too.
All
it's
right.
not just a great message too.
Absolutely, a great message. So we thank you very much, Angela Moruli, UN Women. Edwin Ikoria, One Campaign. Final words?
I mean, I don't even know what to say as final words than to say that the work is begun,
right?
And then all hands must be on deck. And as we continue to advocate and we continue to call attention to these issues and put the young people at the center of our recovery, then that's when we truly have a hope and a future for this country.
Right.
And so with women and girls at the center, with young people at the center, and policies are developed around these, this part of the population, we are likely to be able to come out stronger, even after the pandemic. And I would say that's the final call. Let all hands be on deck. Let's continue to support the policymakers to see that implementation really takes place.
Indeed, and it's a job we have to do until we see the finish line. Thank you very much again, Edwin Ikoria. One Campaign. Angela Muruli, UN Women, thank you very much. Dr. Zubaida Abubakar, United Nations Population Fund, thank you very much. And UNAIDS, Dr. Richard Ameya, thank you also very much.
Thank you too.
All right.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Excellent. So that discussion, I'm sure you never wanted to end, but it's going to continue. Congratulations. Your wish has been answered. Rotimi Sankore joins me in the second part, and where we can talk about all of these wonderful things we've had this evening and distill some more, and also open the lines for you to join in the conversation on 99.3 Nigeria Info in the public square. So here we go. Rotimi.
Yes, Aghogho. Absolutely fantastic contributions from our partners, from kind development stakeholders. I think reflecting on what all of them have said, it's maybe we should create some wider, bigger context for our listeners so that they can see what the population since independence has been like in Nigeria and what the population trajectory is looking like, so everyone can really see the big picture on this. And I think first, if we start from independence, let's create some context. In 1960, Nigeria's population was about 45 million. And if we look at it decade by decade, by 1970, it was 55 million. By 1980, 73 million. 1990, 95 million. At the turn of the millennium, at 2000, it was 122 million. By 2010, 158 million. And 2020, 206 million. This is a lot. Because if you compare with, say, our former colonial, in quotes, colonial master, the UK, or the other big colonial power in Africa, France, both of them had roughly the same population in 1960 of about 45 million. Today, both those countries have increased their populations by between 15 and 20 million to about 62, 65 million each. And Nigeria's population has gone up by about 160 million. So that gives us an idea of how fast Nigeria's population has grown. And it's not over yet, because by 2050, Nigeria's population is projected to be about 401 million. In other words, it would have roughly doubled in the next 30 years. And that is a serious cause for concern in terms of planning.
Right.
We had some of the colleagues talk about demographic dividend, which was a phrase coined by our colleagues at the UNFPA.
Right.
And, in the context of some great work they are doing around the International Conference for Population and Development, this means that if any country really wants to reap demographic dividend, the investment has to be made in youth, in gender, in health, in safe cities, in infrastructure, and all those things that will enable us to reap the population dividend. If not, it could become a catastrophe with an albatross around our neck, which is where we are going now. And I was on the morning crossfire with Sheriff on Monday morning,
right,
to talk about World Population Day. And he asked the question, when is population a liability and when is an asset? And it's an asset if all these necessary investments are made. It's a liability if not. And you can see the way it is going now. This 10 to 13 million children out of school, 60 million adults unable to read or write, 100 million in extreme poverty, unemployment of 33%, underemployment of 23%. So it's, there is a lot for everybody to do, but there is a lot to do in terms of planning,
right?
Which if we don't do, then we are going to be in serious trouble. The deficits in infrastructure are really crucial. Nigeria has a 95% deficit in electricity. The global standard for sustainable development is 1,000 megawatts per 1 million. So we are 206 million thereabouts. We should be at least 200,000 megawatts. We're at 5,300 maximum. So even if we do all the investment in human capacity, youth skills, gender equality, health, and so forth like that, the infrastructure is key to reaping that demographic dividend, because without it, electricity especially, we can't make that progress. Right. So I think, that is the, big context for what we need to be looking at. If you permit me to mention 2 or 3 other key areas, the fertility rate, which is Zubaida's area, right? UNFPA. If we keep having this fertility rate very high, but we're talking about averages, and Nigeria is 7th in the world, and it is currently just over 5 children per woman in terms of averages. When you break it down by states, you start seeing where the big problem is. Katsina, average of 7.3 women, child per woman. Bauchi, 7.2. Jigawa, 7.1. Sokoto, 7.0. Right. Kebbi, 6.5, and so forth like that. Right. You start to see where it is. And when you combine with forced child marriage, which we talked about earlier, and polygamy,
absolutely,
which is 42 to 50% in some of these states that I mentioned. Hence, individual men are having 28 to 32 children, which means the state governments, the other tiers of government, need to step up and invest in primary and secondary education. This is so crucial. If they are not able to do that, then we are going to have this rise in banditry and extremism, because this is where the recruits come from.
All right,
Rotimi. And we always talk about gender equality. Absolutely crucial.
So, Rotimi, I'm sorry I'm going to interrupt you now so that we can go on a quick break. When we come back, we can continue from just where we stopped on this special edition of the Public Square on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Please, let's talk.
This is an infomercial.
One-stop financial services solutions provider Tangerine has officially launched in Nigeria. Tangerine leverages on a tech-driven, flexible, high-access platform to drive business across all the financial services segments in Africa to deepen financial inclusion, facilitate wealth creation and protection. Tangerine seeks to democratize access to financial services and products by developing simple value-adding products that are easy to understand and which leverage technology to increase ease of accessibility, helping millions of uninsured Nigerians have protection or save for the future. Tangerine comprises of the following entities: Tangerine Life, Tangerine General, Tangerine Pensions, and Tangerine Money. For more information, visit www.tangerine.africa.
More talk, news, and sports after this.
Good life, magic. Oh, I can't believe this is what me wanna do. Glucose gives me energy, it keeps me going all day. Mama magic, good life magic, yummy magic. My friend, vitamin C helps boost immunity, keeps me healthy and my mommy worry-free. Mama
Filled with goodness of vitamin C. Good Life Magic. Taste the magic of good life.
Guy, you don't see that new funny video for Twitter? That one with the boy.
You mean this one?
What of that brother Shaggy News Kitty? Where they circulate WhatsApp?
Oh, this one.
What of that meme? Where the guy?
When mouth open like this, ba?
Mr. No It All. Which data you they use know all these things?
Now, Glow new data plans get me.
Are you serious?
With just 50 naira, and they get 50 MB. And with just 100 naira, and they get 150 MB. We have to use chat or browse on top Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, and even Snapchat. Don't dull yourself, oh. Dial star 777 hash now. Make you begin the browse, they go.
Glow Unlimited.
Hello. Being successful is dependent on a lot of factors, some of which is getting adequate and satisfying sleep. So the question is, how do you sleep? It's time for you to check out the new Oboh mattress. Top quality luxury mattress completely manufactured in Canada. The technology behind it makes it conform precisely to the contours of your body. Talk about sleeping in a customized bed. And it also comes in a box for easy transition. You don't believe me? Check it out at the Oboh Mattress Store, Suite 14, Beatrix Mall, number 12, Anifowoshe Street, Victoria Island, Lagos. Or just call 0913-280-7843 or 0814-157-7985. Visit the website on www.mattressomni.ng for more information.
You don't wait for life. You go to meet life. It's not about how many chances you get. It's what you do with what you've got. Morning after morning, cup after cup. Start strong, finish strong with the stimulating aroma and rich, creamy taste of Nescafe 3-in-1. It all starts with a Nescafe.
Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money.
Visit rentmoney.com or call 0700 5500.
Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money.
Visit rentmoney.com or call 0700 5500.
Need money? Rent money.
You get money for account. You want take smart thing inside. Just do cardless withdrawal with any Momo agent. Oga, madam, where is your card? I don't forget them for house. If you do cardless withdrawal with any Momo agent. Anytime you need the money, but your card is there for yonder. Just go do cardless withdrawal with any Momo agent. Cardless withdrawal with Momo agent. Momo agent. Withdraw with Momo agent. Any Momo agent.
Now you fit withdraw money even if you not hold your card for any Momo agents where they near you. Just dial star 223 hash to take touchlight the Momo agent where they near your domot. Momo agent. Safe, fast, no wahala.
Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money.
Visit rentmoney.com or call 0700 5500.
Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money.
Visit rentmoney.com or call 0700 5500.
Need money? Rent money.
You don't wait for life. You go to meet life. It's not about how many chances you get. It's what you do with what you've got. Morning after morning, cup after cup. Start strong, finish strong with the stimulating aroma and rich, creamy taste of Nescafe 3-in-1. It all starts with a Nescafe.
Not a new level. Where I sample your ticket from best king to yesterday's gone today. It be a lucky day for best king to you are royal, oh yeah, come make me bet with best king to go check these scores, oh today. It be a lucky
Bet King. Playground for kings.
Babe, I can't believe I won't see you again till next week. I've really missed you.
Nah, I miss you more.
That's impossible because I miss you more.
Me, I miss you like Ilode.
Oh my. Wow, babe, we've been talking for like forever. Oh yeah. Time to hang up.
No, you hang up.
Okay. Let's hang up on 3.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. You didn't hang up.
Neither did you, Joe.
That's because I don't want to stop hearing your voice.
Aw, babe.
Your pillow talk doesn't have to end when you talk all day long for just 11 co per second to all networks. Dial star 311 hash to get talking right away.
Glow Unlimited. 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Your number one station for talk. Let's talk. This is the Public Square.
All right, welcome back. It's 28 minutes to 6, and how time flies. Big discussion wherever you are. Stay put. We hear the entire city is flooded, so be safe wherever you are, and make sure that if you have to move, you know exactly where you're going. Ask people around what the streets look like before you head into the floods. Thankfully, it looks like the rain stopping on the island, but we cannot estimate the damage yet. But stay tuned to the news at 6. You'll be updated then. Rotimi, Sankore, together we are having a great show, a memorable show about the future of this country. 43% of the country's population under 15 represent 90 million, and we distilling those numbers into the different developmental areas to find just exactly where we are and what we need to do. For wonderful resource persons had spoken with us from the top of the hour till after 5, and they looked at different areas, and I'm sure you did get a lot of information from there. 08095975805 is the number on WhatsApp. 08095975805 is the number to send your questions, comments. We'd love to hear from you. Rotimi.
Yes, Aghogho.
Great.
Apologies to listeners. We had to take the commercial break.
Yeah.
So I was making the point that the population dynamics and the future of the country are especially dependent on the attitude of the federal government, the state government, and the local government to gender equality.
Right.
Because as Zubaida from UNFPA was saying,
right,
that if girls are denied access to education, this seriously, negatively impacts on their rights to equality, to education, to income, and more significantly, it means that they are diverted down the negative, very negative path of forced child marriage. So while they are children, while they are still part of this 43% that we are talking about, they are contributing further to the 43%. And that's why I was talking about the fertility rate which we need to break down state by state. So we know exactly where we need to take action. So all those states with high fertility rates of over, say, 5.5%, and I was listing them, Niger State, Yobe, Kaduna, Adamawa, Kano, Zamfara, Gombe, Kebbi, Sokoto, Jigawa, Bauchi, and Katsina. The last 5 being where we also have polygamy of between 42 to 50%. So individual men that do not respect girls' rights to education, girls' to rights to bodily autonomy, to reproductive health, and think that it is okay. They think that girls are some kind of property to be acquired, and they force them into childbearing when they are children. This is where this problem starts, to show its face. Because if you look at all those countries like Somalia and Democratic Republic of Congo and so forth that have similar fertility rates, even without the additional problem of polygamy, you see that these are really unstable countries, Central African Republic and so forth, Afghanistan. On the other hand, as we always say, the more equal countries where there is more stability, more economic prosperity. So respecting and upholding the human rights and the rights to development of girl children is not only the right thing to do. Then it comes with huge disadvantages. And unless we point this out, that the future of the 43% depends on rights, on development, on infrastructure, so that we can harness the demographic dividend, then, it's sad to say that Nigeria, may be heading towards more crisis. I mean, if you follow me on social media, I've been putting out some of the data and some of the statistics, because sometimes with this weather we're having now, the network will be really bad. But if you follow me on social media, you will see, in more detail what the statistics are, not just in Nigeria, but also in countries like South Africa, where, a protest over a former president being held for refusing to appear in court can just go out of proportion because you have 63% youth unemployment and high levels of inequality. So these are things we really need to take account of. We'll have opportunity to speak more about this as we look at specific areas of this campaign, what we need to do for these young people under 15, this 43% that are about 90 million plus. But suffice to say that where we are now is because the generation before failed to stand up for the previous under 15s. And that's why we are here now, because they are now, in the age range of between 16 to 25. And that's where we have the highest unemployment. That's where we have the highest poverty and so forth like that. I believe we are on the right track. And I believe that the way to secure the future of Nigeria is to secure the future of this 43%. And I'll just end by thanking our partners at the Ford Foundation and Africa Center for Media Literacy for partnering with us to give us the capacity to do this research for the fantastic 10 episodes that we have done, 20 episodes actually, 10 in Lagos and 10 in Abuja.
Right. And at this point, we're going to open the phone lines. We promised the listeners, the millions of them, that when the series is over, they will have the opportunity to ask questions. And thankfully, the resource persons we had in today touched on the key components of the discussions we've had in the last 10 weeks. So they probably just scattered around the issues, but we did drill into those issues at the times when we spoke about them singularly, if it was with the HIV/AIDS or with the children. We had all those in-depth discussions. But now we're opening the square so that you can join in and have your say to the question what you think about the future for the under 15s. And I'm sure you have them a lot in your neighborhood and within your sphere of influence. And maybe you have some thoughts, questions. We'd love to hear from you. The number to call, 0700 993 993 993. Again, 0700 993 993 993. And then if you're a female and you want to call easily without any wahala, the number to call is 01465 7190. Again, 01465 7190. On WhatsApp, I see a number of messages there. There is while the call handler is loading in those questions, the caller. Let me read Tony from Birmingham. I'm going to report Tony to Rotimi. He's always harassing us with messages and say we don't read them. But he sends us like 6 messages. Maybe because they not be charging them for international rates for sending messages on WhatsApp.
Is this our guy from Birmingham in the U.S.?
Yes, the guy from Birmingham in Alabama.
Not the U.K. Birmingham.
In the U.S. in Alabama.
Thank you, Tony, for always staying in touch with us at home.
Good. So we see your messages. He says, if the flooding can... Okay, no, he's talking about flooding. But he says, the big elephant in the room with regards to population explosion in Nigeria has to do with illiteracy and compounded with a situation where the section of the country is encouraged to bear children that they cannot cater for selfish political gains. Good evening, everyone, Rotimi. And several other messages, but we'll take this one only. That call has gone off, but I think we can take this one. Hello and good evening. Sorry about that. Let's hear you. All right. Get those calls in. Rain's falling, and let's see. This one is... I don't have your name. I think... okay, he says, good evening. All the statistics highlighted by your guests are so alarming and shocking. How can I follow one campaign and other various UN agencies? Well, if you go online and do a search, you'll get them. They're up on social media and they're very active. And you can follow what they're doing throughout.
And they all have great websites.
Yes, they all have... absolutely. Let's see. All right, move away from the device very quickly so we can have this discussion with you quickly. And, hello and good evening.
Chief Oboh. Shakumaku.
Hey, Makushi.
Yala. Sir Rotimi, good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine, sir. My brother, I can't keep on saying thank you. But my pain, like I always say, to be a good leader, you have to be a good leader. How come this set of people are not listening to you? How come? You've been preparing solutions. Look at far back where you started explaining all these things. Till today, the so-called leaders don't want to do all these things you've been telling us to do. So we can move ahead. Well, I want to thank you once more. One day, we'll get somebody who will reason and listen to you and move this country forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Christopher, I see, who's joined us from Surulere. This is Chrysler writing in from Ogombo in Abraham Adeson in Lagos here. Says, my question is, what measures are your moderators taking to minimize all these problems? I'm sure they addressed that before they left. This was sent in while they were talking with us. I see that Musa is calling in from Ikoyi. It's his first time calling in, and better late than never. Hello, Musa, and good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Excellent, and great to have you join us in the public square. Hello, Musa.
Well, first time calling on Rotimi's show, but not first time on Nigeria Info.
Ah, all right, great.
Yeah, Rotimi, thank you very much. I'm a very good fan of... I'm a very ardent listener of Rotimi's public square. Mr. Oboh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Basically, like what you said on the 15-year-old just now, I think we really need to do more. There was a time, if Rotimi could remember, he was talking something about the Nigerian, the NOA, that is National Orientation Agency or something like that. These guys need to do more. That agency need to do more on educating people. That agency need to do more on talking to this particular age group. Because if they don't do it now, it will be too late. Now, these guys are exposed to so many issues within and around the society, and their ideas, are degraded. They are not learning new things. They are not learning things that can benefit them for the future. And by the time they are 18, they put their hands in so many dubious things, and it becomes a big problem for the future of Nigeria. So the National Orientation Agency and all other agencies, like Rotimi was mentioning, need to do more in terms of getting these guys educated for tomorrow's purposes.
Thank you very much, Musa, and also thank you very much for listening to our different shows. John, is this Aghogho you're calling from?
Yeah, from Coca.
From Coca, okay, great,
Yeah.
great to have you, John. I see it's your first time also too.
Well, I thank God I was able to make it.
Indeed. Go ahead, please.
Please, good evening, sir. I've been listening to your discussions. What I discover here is that our leaders have no interest. They don't even have any feeling about the youths. In the 70s, when I was in secondary school, I paid 20 naira for my school fees. I paid 20 naira for boarding fees. And when I became sick, my principal wrote a letter to me, to the Social Welfare Department of University Teaching Hospital in Enugu. And when I went there, I was treated and operated upon by the hospital free of charge. There was a lot of encouragement. That time there was library, there were novels, we read a lot, we were encouraged to go into learning, schooling. Even during the holidays, there was this holiday work what we do and have some money in our pockets. And after the holidays, from our own pocket, as youth then as students, we pick the books we need. We pick the little things we can help ourselves with. Also help our parents. But today, our leaders have no interest.
Indeed, no interest, John says. The lack of social security is a big problem, Rotimi. I think that we have, if we take this call, be the last call for us in Public Square. Let's see if we can have this one. Hello and good evening. All right, it's gone. So I think, Rotimi, we have about 3 minutes or thereabout. Yes, we've got about 3 minutes to go.
We don't have enough time to elaborate on too much anymore.
Right.
But what I would say is that as time goes on, we will look at specific issues impacting on the future of the 43%, especially issues around education, issues around health. Issues around malnutrition and hunger. I mean, these are the things that impact the formative years of young people. You know, skills, youth development skills, and of course, all the infrastructure they need. So please join us every Friday, 4 p.m. On 99.3. There are also big issues to discuss, like the electronic transmission of results. Looks like more late nights for people on radio and TV, especially.
Some people have refused to put their money.
So many senators and House of Reps voting against I mean, it's incredible.
Unbelievable.
These things will throw the country into crisis. We need to talk about them. So please stay tuned every Friday, 4 p.m. Public Square. Thank you so much to our resource people, all our callers, and our partners.
Thank you very much. I'll leave with this one from Adeshino Ayotunyibo from Matogun, who's been regular with the messages on WhatsApp. He says that my mother said, Shakuma Makushi to you. My mother says she was not allowed to have formal education because she's a female child, and this really affected her development, quality, and potentials in life. Women's bodies' autonomy and gender equality will surely serve a great advancement in this country if thoroughly and honestly applied. He says, God bless you. Thank you very much for the message. And indeed, I hope we all did learn a lot from that. So we take a quick break. We come back. The news will be up at the top of the hour. And then Ifeanyi and Sammy will be in with music and moments. So we have it. Have a great weekend. Rotimi.
Thank you.
The Voice Note on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
From independence till date, what we've had are a bunch of people, good people in many respects, but stumbling into